Ah! That is the most romantic message ever sent in the history of all messages. Right, there is just one more little footnote. I was actually going to refer to, if I'm anything, when I started 11 or 12 years ago, I'm a weaver. I weave themes together, and I do it well. My business, bully for me. Yeah, it's a crowd fund. I monitored for a few years a younger man, incredibly talented. Very few singers, songwriters do I call talented. His performance was talented, his words were useless, but anyway, his performance was just. I saw him in the autumn of 2009, quite serendipitously. I don't stay up late at night, but this was a one-off, and he blew my mind. I even said to him a few months later, although he's slightly different genre, you're the new Dylan. And I've never said that to anybody. I've never thought that about anybody. Just in his total persona. Right, there's a point to this. So I saw him start to do, him and his people start to do crowdfunding. Please note, I don't name him or identify him. Crowdfunding for, rightly, for the new model as of 6 or 7 years ago, to get new music made, etc. I understand the economics of that world entirely, although I have nothing to do with it. But you see, here's the thing. His message was, and he's the best I've seen. His message was save the planet, give it to the man, in fact. Very intelligent man. Yeah, corporations are destroying society, blah, blah, blah. And he did it very, very well. But then, why every time I put my camera on, does a vehicle come by? Oh, Sainsbury's. This is like fucking, this is more than serendipity. This is fucking weird magic. I have sat on this road about 5 or 6 days in the last 2 weeks, and actually the average is 4 vehicles all day. That's the average. That's why I'm here. And every time I turn my camera on, it's not quite every time, but a vehicle comes past. I mean, there's one guy that comes, I know his movements, Mr. CRX, he waves to me. Anyway, back to the point. Oh no, I'm not even going to hint at the identity of this man. Yeah, he's writing songs about saving the planet, global warming, etc. And he's doing his crowdfunding, and rightly, I studied him using the model to fund the good music. But then he'd be doing videos of him writing his new songs on the balcony of his Losmond in Bali. What? You're writing songs about global warming. That's your identity. That's how you're selling yourself. And, kind of almost in place. And he would do these videos saying, hey, it's great because you people have paid me my expenses. I can travel to somewhere really wonderful where I'm completely in the groove. And, I'm sorry. It's not really a very good message. Now, why did I turn my camera back on? Yeah, there's one more reason. Yeah, I mean, I've actually made bits and bobs of film. We ain't got time. With, unfortunately, Sudes, even like him around in the world. I've made a film. I did it a few days ago. How about come 9 o'clock, it starts getting smelly. But you get used to anything. The job is more important than personal sensibilities. But why did I turn the camera back on? There's a specific reason. Yeah, I'm gonna create and put. Oh yeah, do your important stuff first. I'm too old. but she's the one person I want in my team. Anyway, and it's for her. It's for her kids. For her younger ones, certainly. Not specifically, I'm not being personal to her. Right, there's a reason I turned my camera back on. Forget ridicule. Yeah, I know what it was. And of course, talk about the stupidest. See, when I walked up the hill 10 minutes ago to go and fill my water up from my personal spring water. That is the freshest possible spring water. The ordinary mains water around here, even around here, is quite dubious. Good scientific knowledge has confirmed. Offered me. Right. Yeah, as I was walking up, you see, when you get up and walk somewhere, the real nub of the thing comes to you. And this isn't anything greatly creative, but launching a Kickstarter or crowdfund when the world is thinking about, my God, poor starving Ukrainians. Now, it would almost be perverted to say this is more important than poor starving Ukrainians. But I know from a lifetime discussing, pondering, I've even been to semi-war zones and really care about people there. With somebody else, we sort of adopted a Croatian refugee when the Bosnia-Croatia war was ongoing. A young woman, magnificent young woman, who one parent was Bosnian, one parent was Croatian. And the villages everybody had previously had peace and functionality, and then they end up with this horrible, lethal divide, even in some village in the middle of nowhere. That is living with the true pain of all conflict. All conflict is bad. Now, of course, it would be the perverted and the worst kind of clickbait to even refer to Ukraine. But there are lots of wars ongoing. The way of helping the next generation, now I'm kind of an expert on this, understand what they need to say and do is to remind them of the beautiful writing of the past. It can be the ancient past, the beautiful, wise, philosophical concepts of people like Socrates even. And there isn't actually much in my particular film number one there are any of these great universal helpful concepts. The olive branch, it can be woven in a bit because there's a bit of all of this. Yeah, the olive branches. There is one good one. Do the opposite. Do the opposite of what you know is the right thing to do. You are absolutely crystal clear and still know was the right thing to do, or the right attitude or stance to take. If you're involved with a conflict with somebody, which I was, and in fact I even told the court chap about this. I told him I'd heard something really interesting on Radio 4 about this. I'm going to forget there was a good hook. Do the very opposite. Do the opposite of what you know is the right thing to do sometimes. You can call it cynically wrong-footing somebody, but no, sometimes you just have to be prepared to try anything. So somehow educating or feeding in to the next generation who are, cynicism. That's it. Now, I've spent time living in places like Central Europe, Ferrets are snoring. And you see, we in the West have become so cynical. Perfect example is Malala. I just think Malala has done so much good. Malala has, when I encountered her first, the Newsnight that was done with her, and then I saw the Women of the World Talk 2014, it's just like, deep down, deep down. I've lived in brown countries. I've had brown girlfriends who I valued immensely. One particular one. Ha ha ha. Many years ago. Right. But it's like, no. The Pakistanis haven't really got anything to offer. World civilization. No, sorry. She's done the greatest talks. Oh, WOW 2014 at 29 minutes in, where she says something like, it's about 29 minutes. She says, well, I'm known for human rights, but there's no human rights in my home. That's one of the greatest pieces of rhetoric, because it engages, it makes you laugh with her. Oh, fuck me. And just her existing, with of course her attitude, because it's just about attitude. With her attitude, her existing has made me want to go to Pakistan. And like, I talk to Pakistani people, it's not out of some kind of dreadful white guilt or anything. It's like, wow. Well, if one can be the most 10 times wiser and more spirited than any whitey contemporary, that's fantastic. But, and that's important. I wish I'd known that. Anyway, back to the point. Yes, I encounter people from less, there's an ennui in Britain, America, this knowing ennui among the right-thinking classes, where they'll preach about a certain cultural, useful, iconic thing, but they don't really believe in it. And it's astonishing the amount of people I just say, yeah, but my hero of the world of both genders is Malala. They don't. This is like this cynicism. It's like, yes, but I don't know. But people from less decadent, developed, supposedly developed, I would argue the opposite, in fact, societies actually do take. Daniel Blake, France is complicated, but Daniel Blake was released, I think the numbers are in 50 cinemas here. In France, it was released in 50 or 60 cinemas here. In France, it was released in 600. There's a sort of less cynical approach, or deep down, there's a sort of more maturely childlike. No, there's an absolute here. There's right and wrong. And something in this is helping us negotiate that difficult thing. And we will let it into our heart. That does exist much more in supposedly less developed countries. I've encountered it. And the point being, why even mention Ukraine? Because the young Ukrainians need help, need answers how to the West, the developed, the West ain't going to help them. We got nothing much to show them. They just need a few things. They need something. They need cultural touchstones to help them deal with these tremendously difficult philosophical problems. Should they fight? Should they go? Etc., etc. And how to ensure that these things are not happening, that things don't bubble over. And of course, it's a terribly difficult one because there are all sorts of viewpoints, and the correct viewpoint is crossing another country's borders armed is against international law, full stop. That's the correct viewpoint. But how do you deal with that? Well, in fact, comedy and irony and, let's not go into that. It's terribly difficult. In fact, Ukraine is actually one of the most philosophically difficult aspects because it's such a big country that they can't even easily run away. I'll help the world on one thing, which is controversial. I realise this comes Syria. I have studied international this, that and the other. And there's one thing for sure. We know one thing for sure from Mr. Bush and Blair and his poodle, Mr. Blair's adventures, mid-00s, well, starting with Gulf War I. The outsider can never enforce or even properly assist a culture, a people that's gone wonky. It doesn't work. Never. And I'm afraid to say, in fact, there's one useful thing about my film. Number one, if more people in different cultures and societies understood just how cruel, perverted ours is, maybe few of them, I pity them coming here. I actually pity them. I've spent 2 or 3 years, actually a decade, seeing inside. I had the privileged position of seeing inside just how truly cruel our administration often is. I actually pity them coming here. But much more important, the only people that can help a people that's having problems is the people. So, assisting Ukrainian refugees to be settled close to Ukraine, because only they, if it's, I don't even know if it's a sexist, misogynist society, it's been said to me by Central Europeans that they're far less sexist actually deep down than we are. But if the women and children have to leave, keep them close by, because they need to support their men, who are the people who will have to deal with the problem. I don't mean in an armed way. I mean in a truly, truly enlightened way. Only those people. Outside assistance never helps. The Syrians should have been assisted to either stay in Syria in safe havens, not because I would want them all gassed by whoever, we don't even know who gassed. Look at Robert Fisk's piece. Because only they have their solution. That's the way it is. So, don't pay for Ukrainians to be settled in Britain, although I prefer people from different countries always over British. No, British will put any money in now, right? But find a charity which helps them resettle very close by, or actually, at the end of the day, somehow assisting them with food and rations there in situ. And of course, people say, "Yeah, what would you do?" Oh, I'd probably scarper. It's like the lines of hypocrisy in all these things are terribly complex. But there is one fact: only people from within can work to improve and enlighten the culture, the psychodynamics, the politics, the people in a place. That's the way the world works. So there we go. But also, of course, the message somehow that men, the ones, it is absolutely categorically understood that there are some problematical, I don't actually call them far right. Ukraine is well known to be one of the most racist places on the planet if you look at its history over the last about 80 years. In fact, I was actually hearing at last a piece mentioning this. Let's avoid the word they, right? Men, or if it's men and women in power, there are quite well-known Ukrainian female snipers. They will, even as, of course, horrible and insulting, all human beings, particularly men, if they're spending more time with their kid, they get more civilized and enlightened and philosophical. Full stop. That's the one solution that's an absolute in any culture. So there we go. Let's go.